Do not be afraid.
I'm not afraid.
Oh. It is I, the spirit of Copycatt.
Copycatt? What are you doing here?
Your prayers have been heard. I have been sent to you to bestow upon you the gift of Neuro-based design.
Neuro-based design? How can this be?
Believe in your heart, Jacob, that it will be true, and it will be so. Now, I must leave you.
Wait, I have so many questions. Don't go. This has the strangest dream. I'm super excited because this video has been a long time coming, and today I'm going to be showing you a whole bunch of ways to make neuro-based sounds using Serum and barely any post-processing, if any at all some cases. Like, I'm going to play this sound for you real quick. And if we go in here, it's not even tied to a channel rack. It's just all Serum. And that was kind of the goal behind making sounds like this. And then here's a little beat I made that showcases some of the other sounds that I made, just kind of messing around, that I can also teach you in this video. I'm going to be doing this video a little bit different. I'm going to be explaining the concepts kind of from the beginning, and then I'll go ahead and start getting into a lot of the other sounds that I'm going to show you. So one of the cool things about NeuroBass is that there are many different ways to achieve movement in your bass. And I'm going to be showing you a bunch of different combinations that I learned from Copycatt's NeuroBass workshop on Bass Gorillas. I recommend checking that out, looking at some free AU5 presets that I found, and using some really cool wavetables. But I'm going to show you some cool ways to make some movement using just a basic wavetable. Go in and choose this really square on E2. And I'm going to go ahead and just dive into some tricks in the FX before we start getting to the rest of our oscillator shaping. So let's go and turn on asymmetrical, turn the pre on, knock it up to a high pass, and here I'm going to bring down the Q, I guess that is, and we can bring this anywhere and experiment later with our sound. Just remember this right here, and this just creates a lot of crunch on top. Don't worry about giving up a lot of the mid-range because we're going to get it back later. So then we can throw our compressor on, turn the multiband on, get some more high out of it, maybe turn down the ratio a bit, and then turn on our phaser. And what this is going to do is, I will show you later, is it takes a lot of the mid-range that we're going to be creating with a bandpass filter. And we're going to go ahead and just throw on our band peak 12, make an LFO, which with this we can literally just do this and maybe put it on, like, we're going to change it up later, but let's put it on bar. Turn it down to like 50 or 60, I think 50. And then just 30 up right there, and then crank that resonance up to 70. Now here's one of the first tricks that I learned with band passes, is that if you want the best of both worlds, getting the band pass val and keeping some of the frequency, you can just turn down the mix just to like 90, and you get a little bit of your high back with that. And this is where we start using different combinations in order to get more movement. So first thing we're going to do here is just knock up our unison a ton, turn down the random, and that's going to create this crazy laser phasing. And we can reduce that by going into our global and turning on super, knocking down the range to 1, and maybe messing with the width a bit. So right there. There we go. So notice with the phaser off, you have a lot more of a weird vowel sound coming from the bandpass, but when we turn it, it really tones it back a bit. And that's just turning all the knobs down. I don't know why it does that. Whatever. So then we're going to go ahead and throw on our notch. And the notch we're going to do at a different rate, notch 24. We're going to do at a different rate with a completely different LFO. And this is where you can start mixing up your sound. And what I recommend doing is putting it on a different rate than your other, like your wobble right here. So we can throw this LFO on maybe 1/4 right now, and maybe even 1/8 right now, and then this on 1/2. And we can turn it on the notch and have the notch move while the wobble's moving, so that we get a lot of change for each wobble. And then we're going to throw it on wavetable position right here, and then we're going to throw our LFO on the level of oscillator A to clean it up. And then we're going to go ahead and turn a sub, direct it out, and put the LFO wobble on 50. And then we get this. Alright. Then we can go ahead and just turn on hyperdimension to maybe beef up the sound a little bit. And I recommend just putting retrigger on, which I don't know if that matters. If rate's off, it might. And then, like I said, we can just take our LFO and put it, the really slow ramped one, put it on like, get just more, make sure I'm put trigger on. Alright, so this is where things get kind of cool, is we're going to start, instead of just having the static rate right here, we're going to turn BPM off, put it on about, let's say 0.6, and start doing some cool things with the note modulation. And what this does is the farther you go up, the more that your modulation moves. So we can turn mono on, always, legato, just turn all that good stuff on, put it on about maybe about 400, and now if you press a key, you'll notice right here that there's like a green dot right there, and we can change it so that the dot for the original note is right where the baseline of maybe our 0.6, wherever you want it to be, and then we can curve the line up so that as we go up higher, and this is where you would start recording everything that you're doing. So you can start messing around with FM from B. Throw on an FM from B, just a light one. Let's see. Put on this. Maybe move it the other way. Turn this down. And there you have it. You can start recording different timbres by changing the wavetable. Let's turn that up, make sure that. You can change the amount of bandpass that's being applied to get some lower cool sounds, because you can always change up the way that the notch moves. You can tie it to a different LFO and really change up the movement. And let's turn down the resonance. That's another thing I forgot to point out, is if you turn down the resonance, it greatly increases the amount that is being notched out. And you can add on some noise, you can do all sorts of different things. You even have a flanger to work with, and some EQ, which you can create another, let's say, another notch right here. That, like I said, the sky's the limit. So now that this patch is out of the way, I can show you how to start kind of working within this patch to create some really, really cool growls. Alright, so now that I've gone through that patch, we're gonna sit down. I just opened up a can of Juneshine. I recommend doing that. And we're gonna go through a bunch of the presets that I made in that sample. They are very similar to the patch I just showed you, just using different wavetables and different parameters, just kind of mixed around a little bit. Disclaimer is that some of these are from custom wavetables that I find super, super useful for neuro-based music. And the cool part is that they're free. I'm never going to charge when showing presets for wavetables or anything like that. It's just going to be something free. And not only that, but I feel totally okay sharing them with you as long as I'm crediting the artists that create them. And in this case, it's from custom AU5 presets that come from a pack that I'll also link in the description. The first sound I'm going to show you is right here when it hits that growl. And it comes from right here, and it's the second part of this growl. And all I did in this patch was I used the mirror movement, which is really, really cool and has some really crunchy, really, really cool movements in it that sound super dark and growly. And I FM from beat it at 44%, so 100 on the wavetable, going 9 over with this slow 1/2 line. So same LFOs, just switched around right here in the position with this LFO. And then I FM from beat it with this juicy growl 2, up 1 octave on 200, also moving. And with the 16 right here, I think the global is on 5 instead. And the more you put this range up, the more crunch you're going to get, or the more like distorted crunch you're going to get out of the patch. So if you notice right here with this particular wavetable, the more FM I give it, the more just insane white noise crunch it gets. So then I have the notch going up slowly instead, which I recommend just playing around with. And then I simply have this cool little notch going a little back, and then same exact thing with the asymmetrical, and then I just have a normal multiband on. I think the ratio is just down 100. I didn't even touch these. Same phaser, and then band pass is on instead 35 hertz, and then up 33. And you can mess with that too. And that's it for this growl. Just the thing that really created this is the random being down, because when you get that cool laser effect, every single growl that comes out of it is greatly changed, because when you notice that you have the unison all the way up and you have the random down, the laser effect that comes out of it changes greatly over time. And since random is down, it's always re-triggered over and over again every time you press the key. So see how there's 4 wobbles that all sound very different before they change? The last 2 you can record and cut out and then just throw that in a song somewhere. And I think in the effects chain that I just have a little bit of reduction right here on like 455, and then I have it routed to this channel. And all it does is, there's a bunch of stuff, but I have some of it off, is a parametric EQ that reduces some of this right here, and a little bit of chorus, a little bit of reverb. I just have that limiter there just in case anything peaks too much. And then an OTT. And I have the depth up, upward, and downward down, and outgain -12. And that's it. I don't have a ton of crazy saturation or distortion. I just have an OTT and a little bit of EQ. Then we have this cool sound. And same thing. It's just the juicy growl affecting a different part of the wavetable. I have it down an octave. I have the notch changed. If we go into effects, I just have, instead of a notch, I think I had a notch moving on the other one. That might have been a peak, actually. Same exact peak. I don't have the hyper on right now. And everything else is just the same. Just messing around with the wavetable position and the way that the notch moves. And when you start recording everything, you can find certain parts that you really like, cut them out, and save a library for later. I very much recommend just going in and making as many different patches as you can, and using all these different wavetables and recording it all and making just a library of cuts. All these pre-made cuts that you can just throw into your song on top of drums and mess around to get a cool rhythm out of. Next up, we have this cool end sound that I made. Let's see here. Right there. Yeah. So with this, I used the juicy growl instead because it has some really cool frequencies going off in it. I FM'd from B, the juicy growl 2 at 20%, changed the notch around, and I think I just had a little bit of a notch at the end right there. I do have the hyperdimension on in this, the same one that I showed you before, and look at this, just the same exact effect chain, and that's it. And I just changed the LFO a little bit to be a little sharper, and this I actually had less. Let's see here. That might actually be cooler. I might actually use that instead. I had the unison all the way off. But I like how that kind of sounds better. I didn't even try that. This sound right here is a little bit different than the other ones. This is that plucky sound that I made right here. And the thing with this is that I could probably create another video on this one because it is a different patch and I'd have to go through and explain some things. But essentially it's just a comb filter where I got a very lucky cutoff position mixed with a very high FM from B octave of 4 and then the reverb filter. Comb and reverb filter are just so good for making really, really cool sounds. I really recommend checking out my tear out videos if you want to see more of that in use. And I recommend trying that combination of comb filter into reverb to get some really cool sounds out of it if you're looking for like super metallic-y pluck basses. One more really cool thing that I'd love to show you is that when you make a patch and something cool and you want to mix it up a little bit more, you can bounce it to audio, make a new Serum instance, turn on your noise filter, and then drag that audio file that you bounced to the noise filter, place it in, click this little button right here for one shot, and now if you play the normal C note in the middle, well, it doesn't really matter what note you play, you now have this sampler that you can apply a new filter to. So you can go in, add a new notch, make sure that you check noise right here, turn it down, and then wha-bam. You can add effects, you can change the pitch, and do all sorts of cool things on top of what you've already done to make even more sounds out of a patch that you like. And that's super useful for just increasing your library to a whole new potential. So I really recommend using Serum as a sampler for sounds that you really enjoy. Now in this track, I actually have the sub cut off from all of the sounds that I've created, and I made my own sub in this, which is just a wobble on the level right here on some basic shapes. It's tube distortion all the way up, and then I did blood overdrive. Did I really turn that up all the way? I turned it up all the way, guys, and then I monoed it to make sure that everything, and then I cut it at 160 and then reduced some of the and that's all I did for the sub. And that wraps up this video. If you want the drums that I used, they're from Copycatt's pack. I don't think they're on sale or available anymore. I recommend messaging him and trying to get some information on that. Or I could do it, I guess, because I did actually email Copycatt to ask if it was cool if I parodied him in my intro video, and he was totally cool with it. And I very much recommend his music in general because it just inspired me to make these sounds, and his videos have helped me greatly. So I recommend checking him out very much so. So if you learned something from this video, please like and subscribe. It really much helps me out. I'm going to be starting a Patreon really soon with all of these patches available on it for you to just download. And if you have any feedback or would like to have a video on this patch, go ahead and leave a comment because I read all of them. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day.